Patricia, O'Connor, and Frida, Reba, Darcy here. Today on the Bonsai balcony, we are going to start or kick off our candle cutting season for pines. Yes, Patricia's back and feeling much better. Thank you for all the well wishes. It was a couple of days of feeling kind of weird. 36 hours of hell, basically, followed by some sort of slow, queasy recovery. So that's kind of what I've been up to. But what you're looking at now is a little pre-bonsai Japanese black pine in an orchid pot. And what we're going to do is we have a lot of little Japanese black pines on the balcony, as a lot of you already know, and it's rolling into the end or the last couple of weeks of May, and at this time of year, I'm starting to get into what is candle cutting season. So for trees that are in bonsai pots, which is to say they are in the bonsai vortex, we're by putting them in a bonsai pot, we're restricting their roots, and that means that we're also got more to say over how much and how little water they get and all that. So that's kind of a different level and a different mindset. And with those, we're looking at a calendar date and judging that by what we see, and we cut the candles on those trees at a certain date, which will be coming up in a couple of weeks. On our pre-bonsai, which is this guy, see, it's in a larger pot, its roots are allowed to grow. We're wanting this tree to get bigger before we start trying to slow everything down. And for that reason, we're allowing the roots to grow bigger, so before we eventually cut them back. That's going to give this tree more girth and stuff. And at some point, we'll decide that one of our candles on here might be allowed to run for a couple of years, which would give the whole tree a lot more girth and fat. And then the downside to that is after 2 or 3 years of that, you cut it off and you've got a whole lot of growth on your tree because of that, right? Which is awesome. The downside is that becomes the next scar it has to heal over, and the longer you let that go, the bigger scar it has to heal over. So that's a really good technique. That's a known shohin technique. In fact, that's top technique that's preferred. And you'll see, like I've talked about a couple of times, you'll see a lot of little Japanese black pines, and they will be like at the nurseries in Japan. They'll be in colanders so that their roots will just have will just expand and kind of auto prune and keep expanding out and keep expanding out. That kind of helps to keep them from circulating around the inside of the pot so much. And that also just helps to make the roots. So while they're doing that, they're also allowing that one candle to grow up 2 or 3, up to 8 years or something. And then they cut that off, and they've got a fat daddy little trunk going there. And along with that fat daddy little trunk, they will also be looking at that trunk that the part that they just chopped off. So that is how you get an incredibly fat tree quickly. And cutting candles. About cutting candles, there are several reasons why we cut candles. On the trees that are in bonsai pots, the reason we cut the candles is on the proper time. We cut the candles so that we will get shorter needles and shorter internodes. And the internodes is the distance between this year's growth and last year's growth. The longer you go without doing any trimming on any of that stuff, then I want to pluck some stuff. The longer you go without maintaining any of that, the longer the distance in between those junctions gets. Those internodes get longer and longer and longer, and that makes our trees get bigger and bigger and bigger. So what we do is we cut those back, and that will make the internodes shorter, and then the second flush of needles will come out later, and we will allow those to come out and spend all the energy that the tree has left to spend on needles, and then we will come back through that and select from those new buds, which will typically be multiple buds. We'll select 2. And of those 2, there'll be 2 that are opposed to one another directionally. Okay, we've already smacked the camera, so we've gotten that out of the way. Let candle cutting season begin. What I am doing, what I just did there, was cut off this year's candle in between 2 other buds that came up with it. But boom. The idea also is I should probably select one of these and let it run for a year or 2. On this, since it's a pre-bonsai, we're not actively trying to make the needle shorter because it's allowed, or it will be allowed to let its roots grow. Then we're not holding the tree back from anything. It will turn around and make another round of needles pretty much the same length. So to that extent, when it's not in a bonsai pot, but when it's in a pot, a pre-bonsai pot that allows for a lot of root growth, the reason that we cut the needles then is so that we will take advantage of the back buds that come from that, and also the part about keeping the inner nodes down. By cutting that part back, we give energy to the lower part of the tree, and we're keeping the height down. Otherwise, all of these candles just get longer and longer, and the distance between the ones behind them also get longer and longer, and we lose the tree back here that we have to a bunch of sticks out here out of frame. So, but it's a little different than how we do it on our refined trees, and for a little different reasons, but it's still very important to do. In a couple of weeks, this should have biogold in it, because we're not gonna stop feeding it. The point in stopping of the fertilizer is to reduce needle length after we cut those buds. We want to make sure it doesn't have that abundance of stuff hanging out to just turn around and make another flush exactly the same length. That kind of defeats the purpose. Okay. Anyway, now I'm keeping the tree short. I'm keeping the tree low. I am saying to the tree that it can't take all of its energy and dedicate it to the tips of those buds that I just cut off there. Instead, it'll put out a cluster of more, and then we'll go through and select 2 and select 2 and select 2. I just talked about 3 years of bud growth there, but that's basically what it goes down to. You have a candle there, and you cut it off, and then by the end of the summer, that turns into a little cluster, and then you pick 2 that you like and cut back the rest, and then you've got 2. And then the following year, you do the same to the candles that are coming out of those, and you just go 2 into 2 into 2 into 2, right all the way down. And that's how we build a dense, low Japanese black pine. And just because it's not in a bonsai pot, that doesn't mean that we don't have our work to do when it comes to those candles. We're just doing it slightly differently, slightly different timing. Whereas we're about to get really busy all at once on a bunch of our trees, it's as good a time as any on some of our pre-bonsai to go ahead and get in there now and start getting some of those guys. So that's us. This is my kickoff to candle cutting season on the bonsai balcony. Over the next couple of weeks, you'll see me doing more of these on the buy and buy, and then at a certain point in June, I will take all of our little bean Japanese black pines that we're going to cut the candles on and go through and cut all of those, and then a little before then, we will have already done some of the larger trees, starting possibly tonight with one of our larger Japanese black pines. So for bonsai, for Saturday Night Live bonsai. Like and subscribe if you guys have not already. Our next show, this is going to be out of order. I'm not going to drop this show till after Saturday Night Live. But, well, I may. Never say never. Our next show will be Saturday Night Live Bonsai tonight, done in Frida's place. She and I do those on Saturday night sometimes, and we've had a good little run going. I think that's cool. I appreciate you, and she appreciates you, and that's our little bit on getting started doing some candle work on our Japanese black pines. This is the pre-bonsai, and so we just started here first with this guy, and next I will move up to some of our whenever it comes to our bonsai that are in bonsai pots that are already, like finished stuff that we're just continuing to move along. When it comes to that stuff, the larger ones that we're going to do some candle cutting on, there's not really that many. We can get started on that now, I think. And the smaller ones, the smallest ones, peanuts and stuff, that would be last. This was a good time to get to this one. I love the way this trunk just goes all spaghetti. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. I think I said this already, but our next drop will be tonight for Saturday Night Live Bonsai. And thank you guys so much for watching.